Instagram is where I feel like I have the biggest sort of warmest community, like actually a community. Is, it can't just be about the things that affect us as individuals. It has to be broader. I think that's what the Democratic Party is about. I think, yeah, all this stuff is a business decision, but it's also just a values decision. And like I said before about this time, like I don't feel like this is the time to be silent. Silence is complicit.
Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Hello Merge Tag, a podcast about social media, politics, and where they intersect. We check in with candidates, consultants, strategists, and more to find out what's working and what's not in the political digital world. I'm your host, Josh Clemens of Reverbal Communications. We help progressive campaigns and organizations win the internet. Have questions you want answered on the pod? Have a guest or topic recommendation? Just want to say hey? Drop us a line at hello@reverbalcommunications.com. Find all episodes at hellomergetag.com or wherever you stream podcasts. Now let's dive in. Look out, Facebook. Now you can drive website visits directly from Civic Shout. Introducing Express CPC, Civic Shout's new cost-per-click ad system. Everyone already knows that Civic Shout's the best way to grow your opt-in email list. Folks like M&R, Greenpeace, and Feeding America stand by it. So can you. Grow your list and run traffic campaigns that hit so hard, your team will wonder how you did it. Environmental Action called Civic Shout a wildly better way to grow your email list. And Clarify Agency saw a 200% return on ad spend in just 2 months. Civic Shout, the ad platform for progressive causes. Head to civicshout.com/partners to learn more. That's civicshout.com/partners.
There's been a lot of talk lately about looking for a Joe Rogan of the left. The whole thing is ridiculous for so many reasons. Instead of banking on a single superstar personality to magically unite our movement, what we really need to do as a party is to amplify the many voices of folks aligned with our values, already creating great content online for large audiences. Which is why I'm so happy today to chat with Jess Zander of You Can Do It Gardening. Jess is a Boston-based gardening coach and consultant who launched You Can Do It Gardening in 2022 to help everyday people feel confident tackling their gardens, no matter their experience level. My wife is the green thumb in our household, but Jess's content is super relatable and fun, even if you're not a gardening aficionado. Jess is known for her no-nonsense, encouraging style. Think Mary Poppins, but for your garden. So is Jess the Joe Rogan of the left? Obviously not. But is she a content creator with a large and engaged audience? She is. And while she's definitely not leading with politics, she's also not shying away from her progressive values. So Jess, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. Let's start with, where are you in the world? You're not in Boston. Tell us what's going on in your backyard first.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for having me, Josh. I'm excited about this conversation. Right now, I'm in the middle of a thunderstorm in New Hampshire, where we have a cottage, so I'm on vacation this week, which is great. We climbed Mount Monadnock yesterday, and I love to work in the garden here. But it's also good to take a little break in the rain.
The rain forces the break, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious how you got started. I mean, you started in 2022. You haven't been doing this 20 years. You've built a very large audience in quite a short period of time. So how did you get started building your audience?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, I had 0 people. I was not on any of these platforms. And then when I started the business, I thought it would probably be a good idea to be on social media, as one is and does.
Yeah.
So I think I remember taught a class, which I do twice a year for the continuing ed in Arlington, and I had 50 people at that time. And so it was May of 2022, and one of the people in the class was like, "Girl, we got to get you some more people." So anyway,
look at you now, yeah.
Right, I know. It wasn't natural for me because I'm a private person, and I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't on any of these platforms. But so I started to post. I think the first time I put my face on there was, like March or something of 2022. And I was sort of limping along, and then I actually did a course, which was great. And my impotence for the course was like,
you took a course or you gave a course?
No, I took a course.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. No, I took a like an Instagram course because I was so clueless. I mean, I didn't even know what a story was. I literally had no clue. Anyway, so that helped a ton. I implemented all the strategies. I mean, they're not unique, but I loved this person in particular. It's Millie Adrian from It's Modern Millie. She's amazing. Anyway, so I employed all the tactics. I think I lucked out in terms of timing. And people were, still kind of in the midst of COVID and
Mhm.
interested in doing things themselves and saving money and like seeking solace in the garden and improving their outdoor space. And then things just totally took off in the winter of 2023 to the point where I like the explosion was so intense that it led then to a lot of clients, which was great. So then I kind of, as a CFO, which is what I was doing at the time and had been for years in my professional career, I saw the pipeline of the clients coming through and felt a degree of confidence and comfort in cash flow and in thinking about the income kind of trajectory or whatever. So I left my day job, which was
Ah,
completely unexpected and a dream, really. Like, who could do that? Not very many people get to leave their day jobs for a passion that they have as a hobby and convert it into work, paid work. So that's how it happened. And then I joined up with TikTok and Facebook and YouTube to a smaller extent. And then just I post all the same stuff on the different platforms, and it's just kind of taken off. I'm just more shocked than anybody, I think, about the results of
I
all
mean,
of
yeah,
this.
that's not very long for, I mean, you've got a huge following on some of these
Yeah,
channels. I am
yeah.
curious, what types of content are you finding is working these days? Has it changed since you started? Or, I mean, you're like, what, 18 months into like really having a following? That's what I didn't realize. I mean, 2022 sounds like a
A little
long
bit
time
more.
ago, but
I
winter
know.
in 23 is like really
I
not that long
know.
ago. That's
No, it's
wild.
true. Yeah, it's true. The types of things I think that are most helpful to people or most popular are the ones that are most helpful. Like, people want concrete suggestions, things they can, I think, walk away from a video, understanding better or employing in their own yard. Certain topics are endlessly confounding and confusing for people, like hydrangeas. That's really something where people get confused, and I love to try to help them understand. Pruning is another one. People feel intimidation. They don't realize how, aggressive they can be. Same thing with dividing plants. You can save a lot of money by dividing what you have, and it sort of achieves this goal of, not only saving money, but also creating kind of continuity across the yard by having the same things, repeating and all that. So I think it's just really about making things more accessible to people and opening their eyes to realize, oh, this is something I can do myself. I can save money, but I can also connect to my land, to my property, improve my property value, gain control over it, learn, grow, have something beautiful, feel pride. I just love when people get in touch and say, oh, I created this whole new bed, or, oh, my garden's never looked better before. And, it's because I transplanted all these things, divided, pruned, whatever. It just makes me so happy.
I love it. As a content creator, I mean, on a much smaller scale, but I totally understand. I have people reach out to me to like ask me questions about politics, and it's like I just started posting. Like, I don't know, it's like weird
Yeah.
how people like look to you. So yeah, the idea that you're
Yeah.
helping people change their homes, yeah, what a powerful like touch point you have in so many people's lives. It's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it's
I'm
a big
curious.
part of our property value is what the landscape looks like. And a lot of people don't, they take that for granted, or they don't realize what it takes to do it, or they're outsourcing it because it's overwhelming and they think they need to do all these specific things, and they're spending a ton of money on
A ton of money.
landscapers, anyway. So there's just so much to unpack. Once I started to work with clients too, it's like a self perpetuating content machine, actually, because everybody's property is a little different. There's some themes that are consistent across clients, but it's like there are some specific things that resonate for particular or specific people, or certain people in different areas with these
Sure.
particular problems or challenges. Anyway, so
No, that's super interesting. You sort of already answered this, but I am curious. Like, do you think about the different platforms differently, or you're really just taking the same piece of content, putting it everywhere, and seeing what happens?
I think about the platforms as mostly the same. It's all the same content. Occasionally I'll post longer stuff on YouTube just because I can,
Sure.
and that's what that's really made for. Um, but it's mostly the same. I mean, it is the same. What's different sometimes is the response. Um, And that is endlessly fascinating to me. Like, why is something, doing really well on Instagram, but not at all on, TikTok? Or what is it about TikTok that makes things, more popular? Or how do comments vary, platform to platform? Instagram is where I feel like I have the biggest sort of more missed community, like actually a community. There's certain people that come up again and again and again that I feel like I know I'm connected with. I've actually connected with a few people privately offline, and they're like, I consider them friends. This is actually a format of and a venue where, friendships can be forged and formed. But yeah, I think TikTok and Facebook are a little more removed and anonymous. Facebook people can be real jerks, where I don't feel that on Instagram, certainly, and also not on TikTok. So it's just fascinating.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I run a ton of Facebook ads for political candidates. I see the worst types of comments on there.
Yeah.
And it's like, I have some trolls on TikTok, but despite the fact I'm creating very political partisan content, like 99% of my comments are positive or, like frustrated with me, but it's so interesting. Facebook, I don't know what makes Facebook so angry, but it's a very angry platform in that regard.
Right. I know.
It's interesting. Like, I see it politically. It's interesting you see it in something that's not political, like, as well, the same takeaway. If you also kind of already answered this, like, take a course, but like, if you were starting today, right now, if you had 0 followers in 2025, would you recommend taking a course to get started? Or like, what's the first thing you would do? Would you start on one channel or all 4? Like, how would you approach it if you were?
No, start with one, get it down, understand the way it works. It's very time consuming to monitor multiple channels. I mean, I have it down now. Like, I have a routine, I post, but I cannot keep up with all the comments. But that's that's like a problem. That's a nice problem to have. You know what I mean? Like, to have so many comments that you have a hard time, I don't want to complain about it, but I just want to say that I think getting the flow down and the routine of a platform, understanding it before taking on another one and then integrating that one in, I'd say then take another one in, then another one, and make sure you can manage the flow of the work. I do keep my eye on comments because I do want to make sure there's nothing super negative or divisive in there, which certainly can happen. And also, if there's a learning opportunity, so I'll catch it in, if I can, where someone has a question that would, if I answer it, will help to advance the understanding of other people as well. I get a lot of just random questions. I unfortunately can't, I can't monitor or answer all of those, but I do try to get to ones that I can. Yeah.
I will echo that. I spend way more time responding to comments than I do creating content. Like, creating content for me, I post about once a day on TikTok, and creating content takes very little time. Monitoring the comments takes significantly more time for me personally. So I find that as well. It's like, it's a challenge, a nice challenge to have, but it's a challenge for sure.
Right. And you never know when someone's going to want to be a client. Like, I monitor also for, do you do consultations? And sometimes people don't understand the model. So then I want to send them to my website or, that kind of thing.
Sure.
I will usually respond also to, if someone's flailing around with invasive plants and needs a little bit of coaching, I will say, like, check out the invasives playlist or highlighter, depending on the thing. But you know what I mean? And it's also this sort of human instinct. I'm sure you feel the same. Like, you want to engage with the people, right?
They're
like,
real people. You want to talk to them.
They're real people.
Like, you've got so many followers. Yeah, I imagine the comments can feel overwhelming.
Yeah. Again, it's a nice problem to have.
Exactly.
I'm not, it's like, I'm really fortunate to have all the engagement. People are so awesome, really great.
At least on Instagram.
Mostly on the other platforms too.
I know.
I didn't mean to disparage, but it's just it's a different vibe.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so you're quite publicly a relative of Holocaust survivors, which is something you and I share, actually. But I am curious, how does that part of your identity shape your worldview? Like, is that relevant to you as we're watching what's happening in the news? Like, obviously you live in the gardening space, but like, there's a world beyond the garden, right? Like, so how does that like roll into both your worldview and like how you approach things?
Yeah, such a big question. I did post something in February, just kind of summarizing that or touching on that a little bit.
If folks are looking for it, it's her pinned post, I believe, on the channel.
Yep. On TikTok too, and on Facebook, all of them. I just wanted people to understand at the outset, like, of this administration, here's where I stand. I don't want to make a big thing about it. I'm not going to be posting regularly on this necessarily, but here's an opportunity as I'm coming back from Thailand and Vietnam, which is where I had been, to clarify my own values for myself and then to put it out there as in case it's relevant. I know it is relevant for some people. I mean, I've heard from a lot of people who say, I'm actually unfollowing people who are not publicly taking a stand. I think, um, I think it's important to do that. I wouldn't necessarily unfollow someone personally, but I would unfollow someone who has a very different stand on important matters to me, that are in conflict with my values if they're going to be posting something that's, doesn't work for me and my values. But I think it is all related to my background, but also the degree of privilege that I have. Like, it's cliche, but to think about all the people in the 30s in Nazi Germany as things were evolving, and my grandparents were there and then were Jewish, so they got the feeling pretty quickly, oh, we need to get out of here. And they left my great grandmother there and she perished. Like they couldn't bring her over. We have all these letters that have been translated only in one direction, of course, but from her. And because his letters, my grandfather's letters, didn't survive. But we have all these letters. We have letters that they were translated by my aunt and uncle from German. And so then there's the same amount of footnotes that there are in the actual letters in these documents. So that, several inches thick, 3 inches maybe thick, and half of that is footnotes, providing context for the circumstances and what was happening in Germany at that time. There's a lot of comparison, not to be dramatic, and I'm not original in pointing this out, but it's, you'd like to think, and many people have asked themselves, oh, what would I have done in that situation? Wouldn't I have been one of the good people? Wouldn't I have flagged this? Wouldn't I have stood up publicly and said something? And I think this is the moment. I mean, what to say something. We don't really know what the direction is going to be, but I think there's so many people who are so horrified that we've come so far. We're not even a year into this second administration. We've seen so much. There's now a blueprint we can refer to, which is Project 2025. I just feel like it's important to shine a light on some of these things and gain as much traction as possible in terms of sentiment to try to reverse or prevent some of the things that are happening. So that's kind of the connection. It's like, and then also, like I was talking about the advantages or privileges, it can't just be about the things that affect us as individuals. It has to be broader. I think that's what the Democratic Party is about, largely, at least from my vantage point. Is
supposed to be about, right?
Supposed to be about. It's like
Yeah.
everybody, lifting everybody up.
Yeah.
And so I think we can't be like in our own little bubbles about, oh, well, my life isn't impacted. I'm not going to be, this is not going to be a problem for me. But also a lot of people don't realize the extent to which they're impacted because it's not an obvious link. But I think we should care about our neighbors, sort of proverbial and, imaginary and like hypothetical and actual neighbors. So it's all kind of, for me, that's like, it's all related.
And so that's a big question and a huge answer. And I don't want to like minimize it by asking something so small, but I am curious, like by being public about that part of yourself, did you lose followers on the channel? Like, I know you said there were folks who said they would unfollow you if you weren't public about where you stood. Did folks unfollow you based on like you being public about where you did stand?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Of course. Oh yeah.
Was it a good riddance moment, or were you conflicted, or you're like happy to see him go? Like, I don't know. How do you handle that when your business is built on having a content pipeline?
Right. Oh, well, I think it needs to be carefully and considered. I think, to be naive and making choices and thinking they're not going to impact a following or actual business is not pragmatic. But the other side of it is you solidify your following by them understanding who you are. So And then the good riddance moment is like, yeah, I don't think I want to give free gardening advice to people who are not, if they don't agree with me, but if they're going to be rude about it,
Sure.
then I'll cut them off, because that's not okay with me. But yeah, of course I lost some, but I also gained some.
Okay.
You know
Interesting.
what I mean? Because that's what happens. So then people forward to their friends or whatever, and then or people will say like, I'm going to be with you forever. Like, I really appreciate your stand or what. I'm doing. I think you have to ask yourself, why are you doing this? What like, I don't want to also be like misguided or grandiose about it. Like, people are following me because I'm a gardener, and but it's interesting because they don't come from my political content, and I don't want to do that anyway.
Sure.
I'm not a politician. I'm not into all of that personally. Like, I mean, I follow politics, but that's not here to be a content creator for that,
Sure.
obviously. But I think the degree to which everything is so connected, like, if you're following me, if you don't realize that gardening and all of that stuff is political, then you don't get it, or you're not paying attention to what I'm actually saying and writing, because it is political, like people's access, people's choices, people's ability to do things and not other things, or feel, empowered to get out there. People who have resources, don't have resources, growing food, not growing food, being surrounded by invasives, having the resources to deal with them or not, like having access to education or whatever. Like, everything is political at the end of the day. Do I want to politicize everything? No, of course not. But I have to acknowledge that it is all connected. And a lot of people don't necessarily see that. But anyway, that's my view of it, is
Yeah.
everything is connected. It's how do you divorce yourself, especially in this time where it is so divisive. And I think this administration is doing zero to try to unify people, except, in sort of antagonism toward others. And that's a unifying effort deliberately, but it's very divisive for the country. Gardening is something which isn't really divisive at all. It does bring people together, because you can be, any kind of person from any type of background, and you still can find connection with gardening, which is something I love. So I don't want to alienate people. I also don't want to alienate people who are like, may agree with my views and share the same values, but are also not on my site to think about politics. I'm very mindful of that also. But I sort of feel like, look, if they're here and they share the values, they can understand why I feel the need sometimes to share things or post my own stuff, original stuff. Yeah.
And I think a theme of like several of the last like things you said was the extent to which you see these as real people that you're talking to, which I think probably a lot of people when they're on the internet like forget that. So the idea that you're a real person, like, and yes, most of your life is about gardening, your online life is about gardening, but like you're also a real person just like them, and like you can have other opinions and thoughts, and like to me that sounds healthy. But I get that there are like I know people sometimes tell you to stick to gardening, which is like such a ridiculously rude thing to say, but like what's what's your response to that for folks who are afraid of like being told to stick to their lane? There's a famous quote from Michael Jordan that Republicans buy sneakers too, so he just stayed out of politics. Like, I guess I'm just curious if you could sum up your take. There are so many business owners who are afraid to be public about how they feel as people because it could hurt their business. It sounds to me like it cost you some audience, but it also brought in new audience, and more importantly, it connected you in a stronger way with an audience that actually like resonated with you. So I guess on the whole, I hear it as like a net positive, but I don't know, maybe that's too simple or a summation of some of the things you've shared.
No, it is a net positive. I mean, I think, and I don't know exactly the numbers because I can't tell when someone might unfollow. I mean, I usually have like 3,000 people unfollow me every month on Instagram anyway. And so around the time of this last post that I did around the No Kings thing, I think I had lost like 5,000 that month, So I can say there's probably a net decrease of 2,000. Does that matter in the grand scheme? No. And those people, again, I don't want to be giving them free gardening advice necessarily if they're going to feel like it's so much offensive to their worldview that they don't want to, follow. That's great. We're in alignment. They're welcome to stay. They're welcome to go, whatever. The rude people, I will actually block. I think, all this stuff is a business decision, but it's also just a values decision. And like I said before about this time, like I don't feel that this is the time to be silent. Silence is complicit. So, you're being complicit if you're silent. And again, that sounds a bit dramatic, but it is the truth in this situation, I think. Yeah.
Yep. The CFO in you is like sitting down to the progressive values in you saying numbers are not the only thing here. Like there's people and values and community as well.
But that's also consistent with how I was a CFO because I worked in the nonprofit sector and it's very nuanced there.
Yeah.
You can't come at it in terms of efficiency only. You have to think about the impact to the people you're serving. So you can't just be about numbers there. And I was always in my roles also responsible for other functional areas like IT and HR and, those types of things. And there you have to approach it with a complex, sort of expansive view of what the organization is going through, in its life cycle or what it's dealing with, what the constraints are, what the opportunities are. It's not just like a cut and dried, more accounting kind of approach,
Totally. Why do you think gardening is so popular? Do you think gardening is more popular today than it was 5 years ago? And if so, are people are people using weeding to escape from CNN, or is it just a wonderful thing and more people are understanding how great it is? I've always had friends who are in the farming and gardening space, but I feel like I have a lot more of them now, but that might just be an internal thing. I don't know. You have a much larger worldview on this. What's your take on that?
I mean, I think that first of all, COVID, really forced people to be at home. And then they're looking around like, wow, I don't like what I see. let me go and improve this. So that's one thing.
Sure.
And then, I don't know. I think there was just a kind of a confluence of factors that got people out there and maybe brands, got hip to the fact that they needed to start advertising more. And people also had some extra income with the PPP loans or the various relief opportunities and didn't have expenses commuting or getting lunches.
Sure.
So there was extra disposable income around. And so I think that was really an opportunity. And it is kind of addictive. Once you get going on it, if you have the time and the interest, not everybody has an interest, and that's totally fair. I have friends, most of my friends aren't interested in gardening actually. But then you pick up new friends too to add to the mix.
Sure.
But not to replace, but just to add.
Sure.
But anyway, I think it's just a growing movement. I mean, we're way behind the UK, for example, which is so embedded in the culture. People know how to garden there in a way that we're just clueless here. And we also have a culture of outsourcing as well, the landscapers. And so it's I think we're way behind in this realm, and people need to get back in touch with it for a variety of reasons. It's good for your mental health. It's good for budget. It's good for just sort of intellectual stimulation and the way our properties look. It can really be an enhancement, but it's just not part of our culture, I don't think, in the US. And that also varies by region. But yeah.
Have you found are there regions that are much more into it than others? You have a national audience, is the West way more or less into gardening than the Northeast or something else?
Well, I think there are constraints in different parts. So where it's more arid, it's just I'm just going to put a bunch of rocks in my front yard.
There's only something you can do in Arizona. Yeah, exactly.
And in the South, we
got that red clay in the South. I grew up in North Carolina, and you can garden there, but it is not the same as Midwest where I live now.
Hot, right? It's hot. So I think I can't tell what the demographics where most people are actually exactly. There's a lot of people from New England and there's a lot of folks from the Midwest, but it's also great because there are people, like you said, from all around the world. I love hearing from people in different hemispheres too. They're in winter when we're, when we're in summer, like the New Zealanders, the Aussies, whatever.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah, but I think so it varies by region, but I think that it feels to me like a growing movement or interest in this stuff. So I just happened to come around at the right time when that was going on, and was able to kind of join the wave, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Help push the wave forward, but also ride it at the same
Yeah.
time. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Exactly.
So I mentioned in my sort of intro that okay, in 2024, Donald Trump went on a bunch of podcasts, and now there's a bunch of people in the Democratic Party who think that the answer is podcasts. I've talked often that is stupid. Like, that's not the answer. The answer is not podcast. It's not the platform. It's the audience. Like, you have to talk to people, and that can happen in a lot of places. So I'm curious to you, as somebody who is like, again, you are not political, but you do have like progressive values that come out in your channel, and you've got very large audiences. Has anyone in politics in your area or elsewhere ever reached out and asked if they could come join you in your garden and talk directly to your audience?
No.
Not once.
No.
If you did get that call, would you be interested in hosting them, or is that like too outside the box of where you live to be even like something you would consider?
I might. It has to be very much related to gardening. Like, I did a segment with Dave Cash, the former administrator of the EPA, EPA one, the New England, and we were at his house, and we were talking about composting, and that was great. I mean, he's a friend, but also, he's fantastic, and he worked his butt off. And needless to say, the EPA is in disarray and in ruins, and it's so depressing. But anyway, so that was the natural alignment. It wasn't a political segment. It was, hey, we're talking about composting. Here's the EPA Region 1 administrator in his yard telling me about all that. So that felt like a natural thing. But yeah, I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, and like what you've seen work, and how you think that, I don't know, how you think that could go down.
Well, how I've seen it work is that it hasn't happened yet. Like, our party we are still trying to figure out, like, how do we find that one person who's going to save us? But to me, the one of the many points that it misses is that, like, Donald Trump didn't go on Joe Rogan to talk politics. He went on Joe Rogan to do Joe Rogan shtick. Like, he's literally on Theo Vaughn asking about cocaine, and having a very casual conversation about UFC fighting. And like, Senator Warren, who's one of your two senators, Elizabeth Warren, I would love to see her weeding alongside you, not talking politics, just being a normal person. I know she's a normal person. Like, and like, to me, like, and again, like, maybe that's like, I don't know, like, but the idea that nobody has thought, like, okay, you're in my backyard, some state rep or, congressperson from your neighborhood saying, wow, you're an interesting person who clearly shares my values, who has a ton of followers. I would love to talk directly to your audience, and it doesn't have to be political. Nobody needs you to come on and ask them political questions. Show me how to weed my garden better, and like, just show that I'm a normal person. Exactly.
Yeah, listen, if Senator Warren wanted to have me at her house so I could give her some feedback about her yard and teach her how to prune her rhododendrons or whatever, bring it on. I would love that. That would
Senator Warren almost definitely does not listen to this podcast, but there is a very real chance that some of her staffers do. And if anybody from Senator Warren's staff would like to reach out, Jess just said that there's an open.
I would love it. Are you kidding me? She's wonderful.
But I mean, and there's so many, like, we as a party, like, again, like Gavin Newsom starting his own podcast, like, we don't know what to do to like reach this audience. And then there's people like you that already have an audience and that like share the values. And again, it doesn't have to be political. It has to be real. And I think like Liz Warren coming on your Instagram channel to talk gardening with you would get her more views than the hottest take she's going to have on Twitter any day of the week. And like, I would love to see our party moving in that direction, which again is like what spawned me reaching out to you, because I think there's an opportunity, but no one's reaching out to you. So like, you're not part of it, but that's not on you. That's on our party to figure out, like, how do we change this conversation? So that's, again, I'm connecting the dots for anybody who hasn't figured out why I started talking about Joe Rogan in a conversation with Jess Zander, because they are two very different people.
Right. Exactly.
Philosophy needs to flip for us. So that's my kind of like little, my mini rant that I don't usually do on this podcast, but I feel the need to connect the dots just in case. Okay, cool. Who do you look to for inspiration as a content creator, as a human being, whatever, elected officials, brands, anybody else? Like, who are you looking to like find cool content ideas, but also just like to keep you motivated in the movement?
In the gardening movement?
Gardening movement or humanity? Whatever.
Humanity.
Like, who do you look to keep you sane these days in a very difficult time?
Right. I seek solace in gardening personally. And it's great for mental health and for intellectual stimulation for one thing. Like I'll look at an area and just be puzzled by it and will, you know, not obsess over it, but like really think about it and try different things. And, you know, that's the kind of intellectual stimulation and curiosity that
Sure.
I find so rewarding. For content ideas, I mean, I've got my own garden and I've got all my clients' gardens. I've now met with over 1,500 people,
A lot.
clients. So yeah, it's like endless stream of content, and obviously some repeating themes, pruning, perennials, dividing that, hydrangeas, whatever, all of that, design, all that. But um, no need to, I never am lacking in content. I'm just lacking in time to deal with all the video
Right.
that I have, the backlog, and try to put that together because I'm a team of one. But
Mhm.
for inspiration for other content, and I don't spend a ton of time on the apps when I'm not doing my own thing, but I do definitely check out some other people. Like, so there's some other gardeners I follow, and I really want to support their work and promote what they're doing. And both, just beautiful gardens, but also like, information and technique or suggestions or whatever, tips. Um, and I'm constantly learning from people, for example, about native plants
Mm.
and how they're so beneficial ecologically. So that's been a huge learning curve for me over the last few years because I didn't pay attention to that at all. So then I have to think about myself in that stage of not knowing anything and try
Sure.
to bring that to people who are new to it also and try to make it accessible and weave it in. Like I'm not ever, I hope, going to be one of these sort of militant people who are like, only natives, only this, only that, but to try to introduce these things kind of gently and lightly and kind of try to enroll people into it. But for my personal enjoyment too, like I follow a wide range, as I'm sure so many people do, of people and their content. So cooking, sort of outdoors, hiking or photography, inspiration, humor, dance. I love dance, music, and just random stuff, like these people who are just doing incredibly creative things. I love art too. So like just seeing what people are doing is incredible to me. Um, so it's like a lot of the unifying thread of all of that is creativity.
Mm.
And I think I never thought of myself as a particularly creative person. My parents were both musicians when I was growing up, and that is, kind of in my family tree, so to speak. But I think I didn't realize, gardening is a kind of an art. It's an artistic expression, and I'm very creative in that space. So now I've started to think of myself as that way, and also creative in terms of how I'm sharing the content. So it's kind of consistent with that, that I want to kind of absorb other people's creativity. It's like a feedback loop in a way,
Sure.
it's rich.
I love it. As someone with a large audience, what do you think would surprise most people about being a content creator?
I'm a very private person.
Yeah, I mean, how do you square that circle? Like you get over it, or is there like is it easier to do it when it's just you and a phone and then you pretend that there's not 500,000 people watching your content every day?
Well, it isn't just me and my phone, it's me and my client. I mean, it works because I'm
Got
talking
it.
actually to a client,
Yeah.
I'm talking to a real person. And sometimes I'm just talking to a camera. Like if I'm in my yard, I might just be like holding the camera up and talking, and I'm comfortable with that. But I think what it's done is it's forced me to overcome any shyness I have, or reluctance to being in any kind of public arena because I'm dying to get the information out. Like I just can't help myself. I'm just compelled to share information. And so I just get over myself, but
I love
every day when I press share, I'm like,
it.
bracing, sometimes for criticisms or whatever, that's part of it. But actually people in general are just so incredibly generous and helpful. Like people, I actually ask in the, every time I post, I have in the caption, like, please help others if you're able,
Mm,
because I can't get to all the comments and questions. And there are some really generous, wonderful people out there who are looking out for that, who want to help other people, which I love so much.
I love it. How
Yeah.
can folks keep in touch with you moving forward?
Well, they can follow, of course.
Yeah,
They can
sure.
follow on all the
I'll
platforms.
link it all in the notes, but just tell them how
Yeah.
they can find you if they're
Yeah,
not looking at
yeah.
the notes right now.
Yep. Yeah, you can do it gardening on all the platforms.
Facebook, Instagram,
Um,
TikTok, and YouTube. And then you've also got the
yeah.
website.
Yep, exactly.
And if
then, of
folks want a
course,
consultation, they can
I
just
was
hit
gonna
you up to the
say,
site. Yeah.
yeah, if people want a little more in-depth, sort of customized, assistance for their own property, they can sign up on the website, fill in a form for local folks in the Boston area, Greater Boston. I mean, I've been to, New Hampshire and Rhode Island and Connecticut and, all over Massachusetts. I mean, my preferred is right in the Greater Boston area, but I also love taking these road trips because then I
Sure.
see
Good
parts
excuse
of
to
New
travel.
England that are
Yeah.
really fun. But I also do the virtual sessions as well. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for taking some time on a rainy New Hampshire day to check in with
My
us
pleasure.
and to talk about content creation in a complicated world. So I really appreciate your time, and I really appreciate your time.
No problem. Thanks so much for having me, Josh.
That does it for another episode of Hello Merge Tag. Thanks so much for listening. Know anyone who might appreciate this podcast? Please share it with them today. Find all episodes at hellomergetag.com or wherever you stream podcasts. Have questions or want to connect? Drop us a line at hello@reverbalcommunications.com. Until next time, keep on telling your story.